Questions to the Prime Minister. Question number 1, Mr. Robert McLennan.
Number 1.
Mr. Speaker, sir, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall be having further meetings later today. This evening I hope to have an audience of Her Majesty the Queen.
Mr. McLennan.
Would the Prime Minister clarify the government's policy on Europe? The Deputy Prime Minister has said that it offers recombination of sovereignty for more effective partnership. The Chancellor of the Exchequer has said that the EQ could develop into a single currency. Was she surprised that by 11 votes to 1 in Rome, her European colleagues preferred her cabinet colleagues' expression of belief to those which she expressed there herself?
Mr. Speaker, we shall cooperate fully as a nation-state with its own parliament with other 11 countries in the European community. With regard to a single currency, it is not our policy to have a single currency imposed upon us, and I believe that meets with the views of Parliament and people. Not our policy to have a single currency imposed. We have made different proposals for a further stage which involve a hard ECU. The Honourable Gentleman is very much aware of those proposals.
Mr. Edward Lee.
I wonder if our European partners would profit from a reading of British history. If they were to...
So would the opposition.
If they were to read G.M. Trevelyan's work of England under the Stuarts, would they not see that Britain's principal contribution to European civilization has been parliamentary democracy, in the same way that France's has been her revolution and Germany the Reformation?
Let's come to the question, please.
Will my right honourable friend rest assured that on these benches she has our full support in fighting for Britain's traditional sovereignty, which rests on our sovereignty and control of our economy?
Mr. Speaker, I believe the traditions and example of this House have gone the world over with admiration. I believe they have served not only this country well, but I believe they have served Europe well when this House kept sitting when the lights of Europe went out.
Neil Kinnock.
Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister take this opportunity today to strongly condemn those Conservatives who have publicly insulted her Deputy Prime Minister by calling him irresponsible and unconstitutional simply for expressing his views on the future of the European community?
People don't need a license from me to express their views on this side of the House. Unlike a previous Labour Prime Minister who indicated that Labour backbenchers and frontbenchers did need a license from him.
But, Mr. Speaker, that certainly doesn't answer the question. On an issue as vital as this, doesn't the Prime Minister owe it to her Deputy Prime Minister to state unequivocally that those who have personally and viciously attacked him do not have her support? Doesn't she owe it to her deputy to say that he enjoys her full confidence on all matters?
The Deputy Prime Minister, my right honourable friend, the Deputy Prime Minister is too big a man to need a little man like him to stand up.
Goodson Wicks. Mr. Goodson Wicks.
Mr. Speaker, sir.
Order. Order.
Its honourable friend agree that other European countries hold just as strong views about protection of their own particular national identities, but are more inhibited than my right honourable friend in expressing them.
I totally agree with my honourable friend. I think most people feel rather strongly about their national identities, and when it comes to getting down to detailed discussion, one will see those differences emerge. They do not emerge while we're talking about generalities.
Mr. Bernie Grant.
Number 2, sir.
The honourable gentleman, if he's here, to the reply which I gave a few moments ago.
Mr. Bernie Grant.
Would the Prime Minister agree with me that there is unacceptable discrimination within the prison system? How is it that just a few weeks after being sentenced for his part in the Guinness affair, Mr. Gerald Ronson is allowed out of prison in his chauffeur-driven car to consult his private doctor and to have a meal with his family and business associates? Does this not fly in the face of the sentiments by her right honourable friend, the Home Secretary, when he said at the Tory party conference that there is going to be stiffer sentencing, and I quote him, 12 months means 12 months. Can she explain this contradiction between her government's theories and their practice?
Mr. Speaker, if the honourable member has any specific complaints to make about a specific case, he should make them to the proper authorities.
Sir William Clark. Order. Sir William Clark.
Has my right honourable friend read the article in today's Daily Mail with regard to the Nissan car plant in Sunderland, which is not only increasing its car exports to Germany, but next year expects to export cars to Japan? Isn't this proof positive that where there is close cooperation between workers and management, Britain can in fact compete with anybody in the world?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I totally agree with my honourable friend. The record of that car plant is quite outstanding. It is a combination of British workmanship and Japanese management, which is producing excellent cars and also exporting them to increase our exports to other countries.
Mr. Hume Robertson.
In view of the Prime Minister's frequent pronouncements about national sovereignty, will she reflect on the fact that Britain is not a nation, it is a union of nations, just as the European community is a community of nations? Is she aware that most of us want to see both the union and the community flourish, and that we cannot understand why the cuckoo in Downing Street is doing so much to destroy both that community and that union?
Of course, we wish to see both the United Kingdom and the European community flourish, and this government and this country has done a very, very great deal to see that the European community does flourish. For example, in spite of having got a very good financial deal from the community, much better than Labour left us with, we still pay £2.2 billion to the community, which is rather more than we have left to pay to the Third World, which is £1.7 billion. It's an excellent record of gift to the European community.
Dr. John Blackburn.
Number 5, sir.
I refer my honourable friend to the reply which I gave some moments ago.
Dr. John Blackburn.
Would my right honourable friend agree with the economic and industrial equation that an order equals production, equals employment, equals profits, equals further investment? And would she indicate to the nation today from the dispatch box the importance of negotiations with management and trade unions, that they don't price themselves out of the initial ingredient, the order in sterling?
Mr. Speaker, I agree with my honourable friend that it's absolutely vital that manufacturers keep their costs down and do not price themselves out of their market. For that, really, productivity is the key, and that is not only a question of wages, it's also a question of keeping up investment and of very good management and very few restrictive practices. I think we are reaching that position in British industry now, and it augurs well for the future.
Campbell Savers.
Why doesn't the United Nations consider sending into Kuwait an unarmed contingent of people. Yes. To set up collection points for the evacuation of those people who are in hiding. And isn't it time that the Western world and those people who are supporting this initiative made sure that we were seen to be taking the initiative as against Saddam Hussein?
I'm sure that the honourable gentleman has read the extensive resolution that was passed in the United Nations yesterday, which not only deals with compensation for damage in Kuwait, but also deals with the question of embassies and hostages there, utterly condemns the hostage-taking which has happened in Kuwait, calls upon Saddam Hussein to release those people immediately, and also requests the Secretary-General to use his good offices to that end.
Mr. Jerry Hayes.
Four, sir.
I refer my honourable friend to the reply which I gave some moments ago.
Hayes.
Is my right honourable friend at all surprised that the Italians are pressing for speedy monetary union when they have a deficit of £80 billion, when their national debt is almost equal to their gross domestic product, and they want to be bailed out by the Bundestag? Will my right honourable friend, therefore, express the view of the majority of people in this House and the majority of people in this country that she should back the market, but for heaven's sake, stick with the pound?
Mr. Speaker, I think, Mr. Speaker...
Order.
I think, Mr.
Order. Prime Minister.
I think, Mr. Speaker, it is important that we all fulfil our present commitments before taking on new ones. Clearly, there are some countries in the common market who, in fact, would like to hand over some of their financial affairs to a European Central Bank and divest their parliaments of much of their powers. That is not our view. We do not wish to hand over further powers from this Parliament to other bodies. It's also important, as my honourable friend said, that we complete the single market. As far as that is concerned, this country has an excellent record. There are only 15 directives which we have not implemented. In the case of Italy, it is 62 directives that they have not yet implemented.
Mr. David Cleland.
Number 5, sir.
I refer the honourable gentleman to the reply which I gave some moments ago.
Cleland.
During the course of her busy day, could the Prime Minister give some consideration to the by-elections which are now pending in Bradford, Bootle and Paisley? And could she confirm that her electoral strategy will be to blame her candidates?
Our electoral strategy will be to point out that after 11 years of Conservative government, this country has the highest standard of living ever known, that since we returned at the last election, taxation has been reduced to 25 pence in the pound at the standard rate and 40 pence in the pound at the top rate, that the earnings rule for pensioners has been abolished, that we have the most prosperous social services and health service that this country has ever known, and that is worth sending back a Conservative Member of Parliament from those bylaws.
Toby Jessel.
I refer my honourable friend to the reply which I gave some moments ago.
Jessel.
As next month Her Majesty the Queen is to visit Nella Hall, Twickenham, to mark the completion of the restoration of the Royal Military School of Music, which trains the finest army bands which are the envy of the entire world. Is my right honourable friend aware that my constituents are proud not only of the Queen and of Nella Hall and of the Prime Minister, but that they hope the Prime Minister will make certain that the head of the Queen remains permanently on the coinage of the realm.
Mr. Speaker, I congratulate I congratulate my honourable friend on the success of his fight to keep the Kneller Hall School of Music in his constituency. With regard to that and the rest of his question phrased so ingeniously, I would say to him, and so say all of us on this side of the House,